Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today, I invite you into one of the most anticipated chapters in the story of Diep, the resilient young woman whose courage carried her through storms, and CEO James, the man who once locked his heart away behind walls of silence and pain. If you've been following their journey, you'll remember the tears, the heartbreak, the painful misunderstandings that almost tore them apart. There were nights when it seemed impossible for them to belong together. But through sacrifice, trust, and a love that refused to surrender, James and Diep finally reached the shore that once seemed unreachable. And now, a new chapter opens before us. One of wedding bells, a shared home, the joy of parenthood, yet also the warning echo of shadows that refuse to remain buried. A wedding written in light. Their wedding was more than a ceremony, it was a triumph over fate. The villa by the riverside shimmered in late afternoon light, flowers swaying gently in the breeze as if nature itself paused to bless them. When Diep appeared, stepping onto an aisle strewn with white and crimson petals, even the most composed guests found their eyes misting. Her gown, custom-made to honor both elegance and simplicity, hugged her figure with grace. A delicate veil floated behind her as her eyes, bright, unafraid, overflowing with love, locked on James. James, in a finely tailored suit, stood waiting. For a man once convinced happiness was not meant for him, his face now carried a quiet astonishment, as though he could hardly believe this moment was real. He never took his eyes off her. When she reached him, he clasped her hand and whispered, trembling yet steady. "From this moment on, I'll be the one to protect you for life." Her reply, soft yet unwavering, broke what remained of the crowd's composure. "Even if I had to choose again 100, 1,000 times, I would still choose you." The officiant declared them husband and wife. Applause erupted. It wasn't simply a wedding, it was the closure of wounds, the rebirth of two souls who had once believed love was beyond their reach. Even James's mother, who had feared her son might live alone forever, wept openly. She grasped Diep's hands tightly, whispering words of gratitude. "Thank you for giving him happiness." "Thank you for bringing peace to a mother's heart." The night unfolded in joy, music, clinking glasses, laughter echoing like blessings. Yet, hidden in the crowd was one figure who smiled no smiles. Tong, the man who had once loved Diep with everything he had. The quiet exit of Tong. Tong stood in silence, watching the woman he had dreamt of for so long walk into another man's arms. There were no tears now, only a quiet melancholy, like the final breeze of summer. He had fought for her once, even turned to jealousy, but he had come to accept the truth. Not every love story is meant to end as we wish. That night, he left without goodbyes. He penned only a simple note, wishing you happiness. I must go to begin again. By morning, Tong was gone, boarding a plane abroad, chasing healing on foreign streets, carrying with him the hope that one day, he might smile again beside someone new. A home of two worlds. After the wedding, Diep moved into James's villa, a spacious estate full of comfort. James's mother welcomed her like a daughter, sharing family recipes and long untold stories. James himself softened, no longer the cold executive chained to boardrooms, and yet, despite her new life, Diep never let go of her roots. Several times a week, she returned to her modest old home, the small garden, the trellis of yellow gourds, the faithful pets. She watered plants, weeded the garden, sold fruits and vegetables at the market, not for money, but for the sense of belonging it gave her. Neighbors were astonished to see the wealthy bride with muddy hands and a radiant smile, unchanged in humility. In James? He never stopped her. He only said, if it rains or gets cold, come home early. I'll be waiting for you for dinner. Not just a wife, a partner. Marriage did not confine Diep to the role of a gentle wife or dutiful daughter-in-law. She became James's partner, in life and in work. At first, she quietly attended meetings just to observe. But soon, she offered insights that stunned even senior managers. Her blend of empathy and practical sense earned the respect of factory leaders, who began referring to her as Madam CEO. She stood by James not just in offices but in disaster-stricken villages, boots on her feet, hands passing out aid, listening to survivors. To the people she met, she wasn't a CEO's wife, she was simply Diep, the woman who sat with them in the mud, wiping tears with her own hands. At home, James taught her business fundamentals through metaphors she understood: baskets of vegetables, garden soil, the small economics of everyday life. She learned eagerly, asking questions that revealed both intuition and growing confidence. Once, James teased, "At this rate, you'll be gunning for the CEO chair." She laughed, shaking her head. "I don't need to compete." Just being beside you, learning something new each day, that's enough. The joy of new life. Then came news that changed everything: Diep was pregnant. Overcome with emotion, she sank to the floor in tears. James, speechless, only embraced her tightly, whispering gratitude. 9 months later, after hours of anxious waiting, their baby boy arrived, healthy, perfect, a living symbol of their love. He had James's soulful eyes and Diep's gentle smile. James, once a man consumed by business, reorganized his entire life for his son. Every evening, no matter how tired, he rushed home to cradle him, whispering stories and dreams. Diep glowed with maternal warmth, her love unwavering even through sleepless nights. Most remarkable was the bond that bloomed between Diep and her mother-in-law. The older woman, once distant, now often rested a hand on Diep's shoulder, saying simply, "You've worked so hard." In that villa filled with laughter, it seemed nothing could disturb the peace. The shadow returns. But peace rarely lasts forever. One evening, as the sunset painted the walls in gold, James's assistant rushed in with grim news. "Sir, we have a situation. John has escaped from prison. He had help. A powerful underground force. We don't know his whereabouts." James froze, tightening his arms around his son. John, the enemy who had once nearly destroyed their lives, was free. This time, he was not alone. The thought that haunted James was not about business empires or reputations, it was about his family. His wife, his child, and one promise echoed louder than all: protect them. At all costs. But how? Would John strike from the shadows or attack head-on? Would he go after James, or target the innocent heart of his family? And who was the force backing him? James now stood at a crossroads. Reveal the truth to Diep, shattering her peace, or keep the secret, bearing the burden alone. The story of love, once triumphant, was about to face its darkest test yet.